I thought I was recording, I was not, so let me restart here. Here's the cylinder, all cleaned up. Gasket surface scraped off, got all the crap from the gasket off of there. Cleaned up the silicone on the china walls. Now, we'll run this gasket. It's a Felpro 8548. Nothing fancy, it's not one of the real low compression ones, or real low squish ones. Just kind of a stock gasket. Then, new heads. Why we took this whole thing apart. TrickFlow 1.6 roller rockers. It's a 170cc head, I believe, with 61 mil chambers, I thought. I'm not exactly positive. I didn't measure everything out. This was on the guy that I got it from car. So we're just going to give it a shot. He upgraded to 200 somethings. So, just drop these on. Then I got to dig out some hardware. Substantially lighter, way bigger valves than the stock ones. I was literally all set to start porting, and those E7s down there behind that guitar, that's a lot of work, and grinding cast sucks. So when the deal pops up down the road from you, jump on it. I lost my hardware, so I had to go in and ask the missus, and knew exactly where it was. So ARP, new bolts with assembly lube and all the other ultra torque stuff, and the fancy washers. But I think what we're going to do right now is actually just slap these together, and we're going to thread seal some of them. So I think I'm going to throw you guys up on time lapse. I'll go through assembly lube the heads. So we'll use assembly lube on the bottom of this, where it will sit into the washer, in the bottom of the washer. Drop these in and get going from there. I got this head on. Hopefully you guys might have picked up on that in the time lapse. I actually don't know if I put the gasket on the right way here. I think I put it on backwards. So let me verify that. Nothing's actually final torqued yet. I just ran the drill over the head bolts and snugged them up so we can bust out the torque wrench here in a little bit. However, I was doing the second one and realized I don't think I checked the orientation of the head gasket. And it does matter. So if I am wrong on this, I'll show you why here in a minute. Pretty foolish. I'm thinking about everything else right now. like how destroyed my garage is, and how many bikes I have sitting outside, and how quickly I have to get this done. Okay, so I actually was correct on this. Show you here. So I did do it right. There is a marking on the head gasket that says front. If you notice, there's no passages here. There are passages here. If you were to pull this off and put it on this way, this will line up to the front passage, but it blocks off these rears. So the orientation is kind of important on that. Make sure you lay them out the way they are supposed to go, which I clearly did because I knew what I was doing. Oh well, better safe than sorry, I guess. Drop these right back in. At least now all the bolts are kind of in place. Grab the drill, rerun these down super quick. Right, now we're pretty much good to grab the torque wrench and start torquing everything down. I need to grab the push rods. I think I'm going to drop those in too. Actually, we can do that a little bit later. We'll have room for that since they are fully adjustable. Just set the valves where they got a tiny bit of preload, and we'll run it that way. I do need to run over to the shop and double check that things are getting done up there, because I have thoroughly destroyed my house and decided to put the other people working in charge for the day. Make sure things are still getting done, because this is what my driveway looks like. People right now are probably riding past thinking we're having a motorcycle party, but instead I just got too much crap and needed the garage space to get this motor done. Ideally, the goal for the rest of the day once I get back is to drop the push rods in, we'll adjust the valves, turn the motor over, make sure everything's good and kosher on that side. So torque the heads, push rods in, adjust the valves, get that laid out. I don't care about the intake manifolds going on yet, and essentially get this block lifted up with the cherry picker, dropped down to the ground, made up the transmission and the torque converter to this motor, and have everything pretty much ready to drop the motor in tomorrow. That's the plan, at least. So we'll be back in a bit. Well, I decided I was gonna get the head bolts torqued down real quick. I did not have the camera on for that, but went through, you know, start in the middle, work your way out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Something along the lines of that. Torque down in sequence. We did 30 pounds, 55, and then 70. 70, I believe, is what they call for this. I didn't buy these heads new, so I don't have the exact torque spec, but everything I found online was 70 pounds. I think that's about what we did on the AFRs for the truck too, if I remember correctly. But now we're ready to start dropping in some push rods. Camera might die, so if it does, you'll miss out on some of that. I'll try and keep an eye on that. But I'm gonna just drop these in. We're not gonna do the final adjustment yet. These are also TrickFlow hardened push rods. So my hope is that I can get these in with the heads on. If not, I'm gonna be really upset. So I might just have to pull the rockers off, which isn't that big of a deal. Everything's loose on this. Part of the perks of buying this kit was it came with all the valve train stuff. It's more money that I would have had to spend. Let me come over to your side and show you guys real quick too. On these lifters, there is a machine edge that you'll be able to see once I get this off. It's a full roller, so you got a rounded side right there and a flat side. Make sure that that flat side is up when you go to reassemble these. So yank it, drop your push rods in, set it down, make sure the flat side sits up, and then re-thread down your lock nut. Come on. Let's do one more of these over here. Then I'll go ahead and do the rest of them. I'm not doing the final torque like I said, just dropping them in, which means I gotta pull these out, drop the push rods in through the guide plate, and back on. So we're gonna do this on the rest of them, I'll be back when I'm all done. Well, I messed up. I decided to bolt the heads down, did all of that. Not that big of a mess up because I was going to put these plugs in anyway, but if you notice on the back of the motor, I have the little Thermactor exhaust deal right here and here. These ones have the threaded inserts already pressed in. Well, if I want to bolt up the alternator, I need that plug. If we go around to the front side of the motor, right here, no plug. That's just a big hole. It's still got threads. It's like a 5/8 thread to put the inserts in. When I got these heads, he gave me the crossover tube to run, but it was welded shut. So if I want to run this style, like this, I technically need the heads flip-flopped, or I need the new plugs. I just ordered the plugs. They probably won't be here till Thursday, which really puts a damper on my plans of getting this all back together. But I do want to put the insert plugs in both sides. I don't want to just... I thought about pulling the heads off, flip-flopping them, even though I just retorqued everything down and put the push rods in. I can do that, and then I can mount up the alternator, but then I have these open holes in the back that still need to get plugged anyway. And realistically, I would much rather be trying to wrestle in the new plugs into these holes on both sides at the front of the motor than the back of the motor, especially if I put it in the car. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and torque down the push rods on the lifters, because these are just roughly snugged. With the drill, it's not actually adjusted at all yet. So I think we'll go through the process and re-torque all of those down, get the valve train done. Essentially, I can keep putting everything else on the front of this motor, minus the alternator. The alternator bolt goes into that port on the head, which is why I need the threaded insert. I did have them capped off on that one. You can see that little red tag with some silicone on there. It works. Not opposed to that, but right now I'm really kind of contemplating, do I undo the heads, redo all the work I just did, spin them around, and then I can keep jamming away and then put those plugs off of that head in there? Or do I just wait a couple days, throw the plug inserts in, then it's capped off, good to go, and then I never have to worry about mixing and matching or paying attention to that in the future if these come off or go onto another motor. I think I'm leaning towards waiting, keep jamming on the valve train, and then we can get the pulley stuff on, fuel pump can go back on. Pretty much everything in this pile can go back on the car except for the alternator itself. If I gotta wait a couple days, not that big of a deal. I can even go as far as to fire this thing up, it's just not gonna charge. So, yeah. I don't want to pull the heads off and the push rods and redo everything I just did, so we're going to keep jamming on the valve train. Still haven't gone to the shop yet, so I'm going to run up there now. Be back later on this afternoon, and then we'll try and get this buttoned up. Then I can start cleaning up and getting some of these bikes put back in here. If I can get the motor and trans put together, it saves me a ton of space. So I think that's the tentative game plan. We'll see what happens when I get back from the shop. I decided to just wait on parts. If they show up, cool. If they don't, that's fine. Motor and trans will still be back in the car. But I do want to go over real quick how to adjust these little push locks on the lifters. We were at TDC. You can tell I did mark that on the drink. So if I bring you guys down to here, got that white line. We're over there now. But from TDC, I started rotating the motor over. This first one I just tightened down, took all the play out of it. But if you look, I don't know how well the lighting is in here or how good you guys are going to be able to see this, but if you look here, this lifter is still low in the bore. The exhaust is up now. We're going to watch this go around. I'm going to just focus on just this front number 1 cylinder for right now. So if I keep rotating this motor over, the exhaust is coming up. Now it's going down. Intake is starting to open, which means that this is on the base circle. So if I look at this push rod, like I said, I did run this down kind of with a drill, but take any play off, this push rod's moving all over the place, kind of like the Harley stuff. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make sure this inner is loose, like so. And I'll take my 5/8 inch wrench, and I'm just going to run this down until the play's out of it. So right there, we're pretty much flush. So from here, I'm actually going to preload a half a turn right there, and we're going to snug this down. Put the wrench back on just like on a Harley. Torque that down. Some of them actually lock. I think the other set I had would pop, but these ones do not. So that's intake is coming up, so that's under load right now. But we're putting a half turn of preload on here. You can do more, you can do a little less. I want it to stay quiet, so now I'm looking at this side over here. The exhaust is way up. Actually, we can come back a little bit. Number 2. Not cylinder 2, but just number 2 on the left bank. The exhaust is starting to come up here, which means this is on the base circle again. So same deal. I'm just going to thread this down. Here, there's a ton of play on this one. But we'll thread this down, back this off. One. Back this off. Now I took the play out, we're going to go half a turn on the wrench. And then we're going to snug down the lock. Just like that. So I'll do that on the rest of them, and that's pretty much it. Hopefully that showed up. I'll do one more on this side because it's a better view. I've been zoomed down too much on that one, so I'm going to do one more for you. Intake on the second cylinder on the passenger side is coming up right now, so that means this is on the base circle. Same deal. Take the play out, so we're going to thread the outside down until there's no more play right there. I'm going to put make sure this is loose, which it is. So I'm starting with the wrench here. We're going to go half a turn right there, and snug this lock down. Put the wrench back on here just to hold it in place. Locked. So just like that, we're going to go all the way down the line on this side, all the way down the line on that side. Well, I just rolled the motor over a handful of times after readjusting all the lifters. Everything turns over free, everything's moving free, no binding, no weird noises, no nothing. So we should be good to go on that. I brought the cylinder 1 back up to TDC again. So I got a mark here on the dot basically, and 1 on the balancer on this crappy little timing pointer that I can't actually ever see. But that should be pretty close, within a couple degrees at least, so good enough for me. I'm back from running errands and running up to the shop. I am exhausted. I'm going to preface this now, but we got the heads and everything torqued down. I am waiting on parts for this and this. The 2 little insert plugs that look just like the ones on the back side of the head. And since the last time the camera was on, I got the water pump pulley on, I got the crank pulley on, fuel pump is on. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the valve covers. Everything else is going to be on the intake side, which we're going to talk about briefly, just in terms of options. I have this, oh, let's do that right now. I have a Edelbrock Torker 1, not the 2, not the repop one, with the sideways carburetor. If you look around online, everybody says they're boat anchors. To me, it's better than the dual plane one that I had. Cheap Chinese repop RPM 289 style knockoff. I was all set to run the single plane Torker. What do you think, Shovel? Torker? Or should we go single plane new one? So I got the Torker single plane with the sideways carb, so when that's mounted on the car, definitely is clocked. You can see that hopefully. I have that one. I have the 289 Performer that would work just fine as well. But then, after grabbing that Torker from right down the road, went on the old Amazon and found some more stuff available. And prices are coming down when you get away from the name brand stuff. So here is what is going to be going on the car I was gonna do a more elaborate video, but I'm exhausted and don't really want to. So here's the 289 dual plane RPM knockoff that I had on the car. Here's what I just picked up on Amazon. So I already went through, I put all the bolts from that onto here. Water neck with a brand new thermostat, temp sensor, heater hose port. But this air gapped high rise, and it is a single plane high rise air gap, like 150 or 170 bucks, I think. Brand new, shipped, and it showed up in a day. So we're gonna give this a shot. I plugged everything on the back of the manifold. I got one more that I gotta plug. Just grabbed, went to the AutoZone or whatever and grabbed some more plugs, because there's one extra passage on this manifold crossing over from this manifold. But other than that, we got pipe compound on all of the joints here, so everything's good to go. And this is what we're gonna bring inside. I have no idea. I'm not expecting amazing results, and I've also switched so many things that the intake manifold at this juncture is probably like the least of my concerns, but I figure why not. I did not check hood clearance, so worst case scenario, we're going to have to cut a hole in the hood. That's hot rod stuff, right? It's not a collector car, it's beat to crap, it's not worth anything, so that's the type of thing that, to me, in my head, is the perfect candidate to cut a hood and put a big scoop and do all the fun hot rod stuff. So this manifold will essentially, let's see how well this lays out here. Well, I have it on here. Something like that. Or a little crooked. I got all these bolts on here. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good looking motor. We got TrickFlow AFR, or TrickFlow 170 heads, single plane, high rise-ish. Nowhere near like tunnel ram status, but air gapped single plane. I'll be the test mule. I'll let you guys know how this manifold performs, and if I'm running into a bunch of tuning issues or problems, I'll put that dual RPM back on here just because I have it, or maybe we'll run the torquer. I don't know. I want to get this car back together and running, and then once we get past that point, I'd like to go up to the track and do a little bit of diag and maybe switch the manifold one weekend. It's just a matter of money and time. Costs a bunch to go to the track. Time is really what I'm lacking more than anything else at this juncture, but there we have it. This is the motor setup as it sits. So I think what I'm going to do now is actually fully install this manifold. I'll click the camera on time lapse. I'm not doing a ton of detail stuff here, but I got new gaskets somewhere. That's the exhaust. Crap. Hopefully I have new gaskets. I'm supposed to have new gaskets somewhere. Let me look for some intake gaskets and try and get this all set up. As long as I have them, I think I got some up there too. But as long as I have the gaskets, I'm going to time lapse that one. Slap this together. It just makes it easier to lift the motor up and down. And then once the intake is remounted, we're going to take this off the engine stand and try and mate up the trans. That's the main goal for tonight. The rest of it's a bonus, but instead of grabbing the chains and trying to hook all this up, I would much rather just put the intake on, have that be done, mate that up to the trans, and then I can throw the bikes back in here, because it's only a Monday, but I'm beat, like I said. I was out a little too late last night, and now I'm paying the price. So let me get all this figured out. We'll be back in a minute. I thought I was going to throw the intake on, but apparently I don't have parts. I was just looking through everything. I got both head gaskets, which are installed now. I have exhaust gaskets down there. The intake and stuff is on, or the thermostat and all of that is on. They didn't bring me my intake gaskets yet, so we're gonna have to wait a little bit on that one. So instead, I'm gonna keep jamming forward. I'll throw some chains on this, yank it up with the cherry picker, get the engine stand base off, put the 351 back on here, roll that in the corner, and then I'm gonna clean up. And that's probably the end of this video for tonight. Got everything kind of cleaned up, at least enough room to start throwing some stuff back in here. I have 3 bikes that need to come in here. Normally I line them up on this side, but that's clearly full right now. I think I'm going to throw the drive shaft underneath the car, because that should be fine. Turn the chainsaw a little bit. Precision placed. So we'll throw the drive shaft under there. I'll move the guitar over here, and then we'll do 1, 2, 3 bikes across maybe. Leave the iron head out. So maybe I'll leave the super glide outside. 1 bike outside I don't really mind as much. Also keeps me motivated to maybe try and ride them. Not that I ever will, because there's no time in the day. Or I gotta go pick up a bunch of stuff for parts, or move things around, or any of those things. Really puts a deterrent on this whole riding in the summer thing, which normally I'd probably have about 1,000 miles by now. This year we're at about 40. Life's a bitch. Anyways, I got a little bit more room, so let me keep moving some of this little odds and ends stuff. This bucket will go back. Basically just try and jam the rest of these bikes in the house. Motors and transmission. The motor's pretty much good. I need to take the torque converter out of this transmission, put it into that one, both of which are bone dry right now, and then I gotta switch over the oil pressure sending unit and some other odds and ends on the outside of this trans when we put it on there. So basically I got them both laid out, relatively close height. We'll do some flip-flopping first. Then once I get everything else set up, I gotta pull the TV linkage off of this and then rehook up the new AOD low-car TV kit. Hook that up to this trans, flip-flop the rest of it, go, 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 and then that should be it. So if this little area ends up being tight for a day or two, that's fine. I have an assistant to help me, a kid that works for my new kid at the shop. I was gonna have him come here and help me drop the motor and trans back into the car. I'm running out of steam. If I can get up early and get out here and do the flip-flop on these 2 transmissions, then we'll do that. If not, this will wait till Wednesday morning, hopefully. We'll see. They got rain coming, so really depending on the weather now. This is actually where I'm going to wrap this video up. I got the Falcon motorless and sad jacked up in the front, put on the roof. Drive shaft is underneath the car, exhaust is underneath the car, power washer is sitting here because I need to bring that to the backyard for the deck. And I didn't make room for the cherry picker, but we got 4 bikes in on this side, 1 bike over here, motor, 2 transes sitting here. Ready to go back in. I just gotta flip-flop these 2. So rather than keep jamming away when I'm exhausted and probably mess up a bunch of stuff and be really upset, I'm gonna put this on pause till tomorrow morning. I'll come out here crack of dawn, probably around 5:30, flip-flop over the transes, try and get them set up to go back together. Worst case, if I don't have the transmissions completely back onto the motor, flip-flop them and have it back on the motor. My employee is getting dropped off here at my house at 8:30, so my plan was to have him help me drop the motor in. If I need help wrestling the trans and motor back together, second set of hands wouldn't hurt, especially after I already cracked that transmission once. So that's where we're gonna leave off. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all those other fun things. All Falcon videos the next couple days, so if you're here for Harley stuff, you're on pause for a minute until this is all done. We're gonna get this put back together, running and driving, a couple break-in miles. The motor's broken in, but a couple fresh break-in miles with the head set up, and then we're gonna get this thing up to the track and see what we can break. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.